increase. So actually, I wouldn't have given a mark for the underlined section there, but this person did go on to say not recovering as quickly, so I've given the mark there. So then she's explained that point could lead to her missing training and races. Okay, so that's linked together there. So two marks for that second point. Then if we move on to point number 3, flexibility decreasing. So how might this affect her? Could lead to her being more prone to injuries. Really good. Pulling muscles easier, which could affect her participation. She won't be able to train. Fitness will decrease. So again, that's going to impact on participation and performance. So 3 marks there linked together. So if you look there, we've got 3 points and 2 points explained really well and 1 point explained fairly well, which is enough to pick up the full 8 marks. Right, when I looked at this question, part B, I thought, oh, this is a really nice, easy one. Everyone will get full marks on this. But actually, quite a few people got caught out on this one because it's talking about weather conditions. So explain how 2 different weather conditions could affect training and performance. So we're looking for detail with explain. So if you only mentioned one type of weather, you could get a maximum of 2 marks. So you had to actually mention 2 different types to access the full marks. So we've got examples of types of weather you could have talked about: humidity, heat, cold or ice and snow, rainfall, pollution, strong winds as well could have been one that you could have talked about. So if you look on the mark scheme, it tells you what impact that weather condition might have on performance or on participation, on training, sorry. So just looking down, say at hot weather as an example here. So hot weather, difficult to replace the fluids loss, which leads to dehydration, unable to train as long or as high intensity, unable to perform as fast or unable to finish. Okay, so remember we're talking about Joanne, so we are talking about her event, which is the marathon. Okay. So let's have a little look at a couple of examples of answers to this question. Right, so I'll start with this one that picked up 2 marks out of the 4. This was a common error. Most people that didn't get full marks in this question, the reason was because they talked about altitude. So altitude is part of the environment part of this unit, which also includes weather. However, altitude isn't a weather condition. It's to do with environment. It's to do with your height above sea level. It's nothing to do with the weather. So you could be at high altitude and it be raining, or you could be at high altitude and it be sunny or windy or icy, snowy. It's got nothing to do with what weather condition it is. It just means how high you are above sea level. So if you mentioned high altitude, you couldn't pick up any marks for that part of your answer. This person has picked up marks, however, from their second point, which is about heat. So hot weather caused Joanna to sweat a lot, which leads to her vulnerable to dehydration. Good answer there. They've gone on to talk about heat stroke as well, but they've already picked up the mark for the dehydration, so 2 marks for that answer. Right, so here's an example of a 4-mark answer. So the first weather condition is rain, 1 mark for that. They've talked about what will happen, so about the fact that it could become slippery, and her grip won't be as good, so her speed won't be as high, so she'll slow down. So it's talking about her performance. The second point is extreme heat. So we've got dehydration mentioned, so she'll become more tired more quickly and slower down, might even become ill. So fully explained there, 2 points fully explained for 4 marks. Good answer. Okay, the final question on the paper, talking about being a professional and what might be the advantages and disadvantages of being a professional sports person. So it's asking you to explain how these demands might affect Joanne. So you need to mention both advantages and disadvantages in your answer to access the full marks here. So again, this is an 8-mark question. If you look down at the bottom, got the same bit down there, same bit of guidance on how to answer the question. So you need to give examples, you need to explain in relation to Joanne. To get full marks, you need to give at least 3 effects in detail. So if we look at the bullet points here, it gives you some examples of things you could talk about in terms of her being paid, in terms of the free time. So there we've got a positive and a negative already. We've got the fitness benefits that could be an advantage, satisfaction of being successful at a high level, recognition, sponsorship. We've got facilities and coaches, another advantage. We've got stress and pressure, which could be a disadvantage there. Fatigue could be another disadvantage, and losing privacy and having your private life invaded, another disadvantage. So do have a good look through that mark scheme and what you could have picked up marks for if you did miss out on anything. So we'll start off with a really strong example answer. So if we have a look, again, I've marked in the same way as I did on part A. So I've used numbers to link points together where you've explained a point or given examples to illustrate a point. So point number 1 is talking about social life. So training would take up time that you would normally spend with friends and family. So they've explained that point a bit further. This could affect her friendships. So it's talking more about how it could impact. So those 3 points all linked together up here. Right, so point number 2 here, pressure. So this person's talked about high levels of pressure that Joanne would be under because she's performing at such a high level. So they've gone on to explain what this might mean. So it could make her panic and not believe in herself, which might mean she doesn't perform as well in competitions. So they're linked together there. So we've got two marks for point number 2. Explained fairly well. Could have gone on to explain that point a little bit further about how that might affect her even further, whether she might feel sick before competition, so talking about the effects of stress and whether it might make her muscles tense, which could affect her performance. So a little bit more detail could have been given on that point. Then point number 3 is here, so financial benefits. So talking about getting paid more. So then she'd be able to buy training equipment or use better facilities. So that's going to help her because she's going to be able to improve her performance because she's using better facilities and being coached by someone better, and her equipment is of the highest standard. Okay, so that point gets 3 marks. So 3 different points made, 2 explained very, very well, 1 explained quite well, gives us that total of 8 marks. So this part at the bottom down here doesn't necessarily need to be there because the 8 marks have already been achieved. However, it's always good to add extra detail if you're not sure, especially on a longer question. If you're not sure if you've written enough and you've got time, then do add more because you won't get any marks taken away from you for adding more. Right, in our second example, this one I gave 5 marks to. So if we have a look through so I can explain why. If you look at the numbered ticks, we've got 4 different points made here. So we've got the financial benefits, talking about money. We've got good training facilities. We've got social life mentioned, and down here we've got having to change their diet. So 4 different points mentioned, but actually only 1 point here is explained in any further detail. So it talks about social life, and the reason for that is because she'll be training all the time. So those 2 are linked together. The other 3 points, here and here, there's not any further explanation to talk about why or how that could affect Joanne. So I can't give any more marks than that, than 5, because we don't have enough explanation, which is a key word up in the question here. This one's another similar one, 5 marks. So again, I've given credit for 1, 2, 3 and 4 points, and again only one of them explained in any more detail, so not getting as much time with the family because of being training, so it's actually the same point as in the previous answer. This answer in particular is just a list, which is not good enough for an 8-mark question. We've got here a list at the top, so we've got money, got well known, got sponsorship, we've got top clothing, we've got paparazzi, we've got privacy, we've got social life. So it's just a long list of of these advantages and disadvantages, but just nowhere near enough of this explanation to get full marks or 7 marks out of 8. Right, so we've come to the end of this review. I do hope you have found it useful. Feel free to go back through if you missed anything. Have a great half term off. I'll see you when we come back. If you do need any help or if you're unsure about why you dropped marks on a particular question, please do get in touch. Email me. If you're not sure of my email address, you can find it on the school website. Okay, see you later.